Right, so we have officially reached the final speaker of the day. I've had an amazing day. I've learned a massive amount, and I think we're ending on a high note. Okay, as Chief Creative Officer International at DigitasLBi, Chris Clarke oversees the agency's creative output internationally. Chris is also a regular commentator in the print media, and he's a passionate proponent of the idea that businesses can build their brands by creating work which has a social purpose at its heart. I'd like to thank Miles Murphy from Licorice, who's the local Digitas agency, for helping to get Chris here today. And also, Chris will be back with us later in the year at the Luries, so we're really excited to have you.
All right, thanks very much to those of you who've stayed. Loads of people were leaving. Come back in, it's going to be fun. I know you've probably got far too much blood in your alcohol stream and you want me to get on with it so you can get on with having a drink. I completely believe in the excitement about technology that we've seen here today. I'm, however, going to ask us to step back a little bit and have a think about, first of all, the impact of technology on our lives. Perhaps think about some of the darker sides of the technologies that we're involved with. And then try and think about how brands and branding with purpose might help to overcome some of those dark sides. As a creative, I believe that the whole point of being creative is to be sure that things can be better. It's to be critical. And yet, as an industry, I think we're very uncritical of the technologies that we use. I think we're guilty on a daily basis of still selling the internet, like the internet needs to be sold. That's not the case anymore. Technology has happened. It's disrupted thousands of industries. It's changed the world around us. It's emphatically not just a media channel. It's something much, much more pervasive. So I think we need to think differently about it. Just to get a sense of how pervasive internet is, this is a statistic from Starwood Hotels. Very disappointing, probably skewed by the French, I would say, but you know, I'm another sweary Brit on the stage today. So this is where we've ended up with technology. Wi-Fi is now at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which could be redrawn a bit like this. So we're very interested in cats, and it takes us a long time in the day to get on with actually doing anything. So things have changed for us. I don't believe that technology necessarily frees us up. Who in this room checks their phone first thing in the morning? And last thing at night, and fucking 100 billion times in between. I know this for a fact because I run teams of designers and UX experts, and I work closely with businesses like Facebook and have a huge number of friends that work in this area. These interfaces are designed to be addictive. The worst brief in an advertising agency at the moment is to try and sell chewing gum, because people don't need it anymore. We have got addictive, compulsive interfaces at our fingertips all the time. We are not in control of those interfaces. They are in control of us. And it's extremely important for us to understand that distinction if we're going to get anything done, and if we're going to tackle some of the bigger issues that we for sure as hell face, whether we're in developed or developing countries. So the consumer is not in control. This bullshit is put forward at conferences like this around the world all the time. The consumer is not in control of her calorie intake or her credit card balance, let alone your brand. You know, it's an insane idea to think that just because we all have a computer that's connected to the network that we're all equally powerful. Guys, the most powerful person on the network is the person with the biggest computer. So it's probably not any of us in this room. Now, there are some incredibly positive forces behind the disruption and the capabilities that technology give us. And in developing countries in particular, it's fantastic to see how technology can lift people out of abject poverty. Now, it's quite elsewhere in developed countries, it removes the middle class and increases inequality. But in people starting at a low base, technology gives people access to information and knowledge they never had before. This image relates to an MIT project in 2012 where tablets were put into a remote village in Ethiopia. The people working on the project thought that the kids would just play with the boxes. Within 4 minutes, they'd opened them up and turned them on, even though they'd never seen an on-off switch. Now, that will lead a lot of us to think, oh yeah, kids are really good at technology, which is another piece of bullshit that I would like to take out of your minds today. Kids are not really good at technology. They're good at non-goal-oriented play, and they don't care if they break stuff. So they figure things out, right, really quickly. Within 4 months, the kids had hacked Android and got the cameras working on these tablets. So there are wonderful, heartwarming stories about what technology can do when you're starting from a low base. And this is where it all began. If you've never seen the beginning of the internet, this is what it looked like. The World Wide Web. This is Tim Berners-Lee's first page, which I believe, if I click, I have to click again. Here we go. So this was his little demo, and he wondered whether we might, these are some of the things that he thought we could do. There's no mention of porn or cats on that list, actually, but that was where it all began. And it led us to a really exciting place, and I was looking around the room here, it looks like there's a few people like me who've been involved in this internet thing for quite a long time. And it was really exciting at the beginning. There was this zeal that we were here to disrupt industries and to take bad, old, nasty companies and replace them with exciting, new, clever companies where people don't wear shoes to the office. I don't know who's read the Clue Train manifesto, but the older hands in the room will definitely be going up around this. So this was the first treatise of disruption, right? A powerful global conversation has begun. Through the internet, people are discovering and inventing new ways to share relevant knowledge with blinding speed. And as a direct result, markets are getting smarter and getting smarter faster than most companies. And that was the exciting thing, right? Big old bad companies won't catch up. Now, that has led to some unfortunate side effects. And it's worth just thinking about this. So Kodak went bust in 2012, and in the year it went bust, it was still making revenues in the billions, which it distributed very nicely to the 140,000 employees that they had, as well as shareholders, etc. So that's billions of dollars every year getting distributed into people's pockets, getting spent in shops, and nourishing the world and leading to economic growth. It's not an exaggeration, really, to say that the custodian now of our memories, rather than Kodak, is Instagram, which in the same year that Kodak went bust was bought in a one-off payment of $1 billion that went to the shareholders and 1 or 2 of the founders. They employed 13 people and made revenues of 0, and they still make revenues of 0. And that is the dominant story, quite often, of digital disruption. And we need to understand that if we're going to do sensible, useful things in this space, if we're going to be useful to our clients, and if we're going to be useful to our kids, frankly, who we have to bring up in this space. We need to understand where the power is at, and we need to decode the bullshit and slay the sacred cows. Another thing that's worth thinking about here, and the reason why you get that Kodak story, there's a fantastic, if you're interested in this territory at all, Google The Capitalist's Dilemma by Clay Christensen. It will give you detail on how money basically follows innovations that produce efficiency, that remove human agency from industries. So that is the dominant story of digital disruption, because the internet is very good at process, and it's very good at process efficiency, and Clay Christian will give you detail on that. So the internet is definitely not democratic, it's not democratizing. It has been used far more effectively by ISIS than it has by many a global charity or well-meaning organization. So that's something that's worth bearing in mind. Part of the reason why the web and social is difficult for us when it comes to actually making changes and thinking about things and having really brilliant ideas is because it atomizes our attention. We spread our time and attention across lots of little things. And that makes it very hard, it makes it very easy for us to be controlled, because we're very interested to know what type of toaster we are on BuzzFeed, or the 8 reasons why we won't actually get any work done today because we're busy browsing lists on BuzzFeed. So it's very good at distracting us and stopping us from getting on with shit. But of course, it's very funny that there are niche places out there on the internet. I found the Ice Chewers bulletin board the other day, which has been up, I think, since 1996. Very interesting. So we also find online that dialogue and debate give way to groupthink a little bit, right? The social media puts us into self-reflexive groups. We follow people that we're interested in. If we say anything remotely controversial on Twitter, we get unfollowed very quickly by people who've got the wrong idea about us. And therefore, because we're so distracted, we cleave to really banal, stupid things. I'm going to be a typical Brit here, because I'm still upset about this, from South by Southwest in 2013. Danny Boyle, who'd just done what I thought was a triumphant opening ceremony of the Olympic Games, was available, along with other dignitaries, to talk to in a room at South by Southwest. He had 3 people standing around him, but the queue to talk to Grumpy Cat and his owner went round the block, because everybody wanted a picture of them with Grumpy Cat. So it shows you that, generally speaking, our amount of attention is going down, the amount of media we consume goes up, and that means that we have less space to have good ideas. And if you don't believe me, read a book by a man who wrote a book called Trust Me, I'm Lying, Very, very interesting, but he used to be the marketing director of American Apparel. He literally wrote the book on how to manipulate media in a digital age. We all know blogs have infinite space to fill. Bloggers are generally not very good at checking sources. We all know this because we've all put stories in front of bloggers in the course of our jobs. All you have to do is you create something that's not true about your client, but the message that you want to get out there. You send it to the smallest blog you can find. You then send the link to the article to the next biggest blog after that, saying this is bubbling up. And before long, you're on the front cover of the LA Times and you're in CNN. So the internet is definitely not a place of truth and beauty. Also, I think that there's a lack of powerful new ideas out there. This is a patent from Sony for the smart wig, which will allow you to move your PowerPoint presentations on by shaking your head, which is worrying. And then, of course, we can scan our brains now, so we know whether we're happy or sad. And the good people at Dentsu put this out there as an idea. Advertising agencies are bad at products. This was supposed to help us understand each other better, because it shows if we're happy or sad, a bit like a smile or a sad face. The human condition is not a bug to be cracked. And then we find that culture itself gets self-reflexive, and so on and so on. There's endless examples of this. You know, when Apple are putting out phones that are just a different color, that we're running out of ideas a little bit because we're distracted and we're atomized. We're no longer creators or consumers, but we're plugged into a kind of kaleidoscope of choices. We're nodes in a web, quite often just sharing other people's ideas or updating other people's platforms. If you want to take control of your career and you want to be successful in this new world order, it is a really good idea to stop thinking that somehow you're equally powerful and actually start to recognize that you're being manipulated. You need to take control of those channels. Then you can take control of your creativity. Facebook's a fantastic thing, but I found that my creativity levels shot up when I deleted the app from my mobile phone, because I stopped just doing wise-ass comments on people's posts all day long and started actually thinking for myself again. I recommend you do it. So how do we slip the noose here? And I'm trying to go really fast. I think one of the answers to this lies in enlightened self-interest. Now, in developed countries, technology is disrupting industry after industry. White-collar jobs, middle-class jobs are disappearing. You're getting lots of very rich tech entrepreneurs and bankers, and then the people that clean their swimming pools. If you're in a developing country, that's a problem because you get what The Economist calls premature deindustrialization. You can't take people out of the fields and put them into factories because the factories are run by robots. You need to make them computer programmers. Fantastically, in Kenya, there's a burgeoning technology industry where people are doing just that. And if you look at those kids that we saw just now in Ethiopia, you get the sense that maybe the leap isn't that far. But what all this means is that in the countries where the most money exists, the median income is collapsing. Government tax receipts are disappearing, and the things that governments used to have money for are no longer there. At the same time, brands are finding that they can't communicate as well and as effectively in traditional channels. They need to get their messages and their point of view out there in people's social channels. So it turns out that there's a lack of good stuff being done because government can't do it, and there are increasingly few traditional opportunities to put your message across. That's why I think it's interesting for brands to take digital processes and digital ideas and start thinking about stepping into the social space. And you're seeing it on a massive level already. I think we can find, if we work with brands, that we can accommodate the digital reality in new ways. It requires us as agencies, I think, to think outside of the day-to-day work that we normally do. Most of what we do on a daily basis is pretty straightforward stuff on behalf of our clients. We need to find ways of thinking beyond business as usual. I haven't really got time to show you this video, so I'm going to go past it actually. But this is just an example of one of the things that we've done together with the client AstraZeneca at DigitasLBi, where we've completely created a new agency within the agency, working with the client on problems like hypertension in East Africa, big health issues. And it's a commercial organization that is finding that they can do things that governments used to do, and it meets their commercial interest and actually helps people. It's enlightened self-interest. Now, this is a horrible image, which I'm only going to flick up for a second, but most of you probably saw the horrible news in India and are very aware of the terrible situation with sexual politics in India. And last year, in the spring, 2 girls were hung from a mango tree after being raped. And a lawmaker from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's own party described rape as sometimes right and sometimes wrong. This is a terrible, terrible situation. You don't need me to tell you that. And a very awkward place for a brand to play. We have a client, Durex, whose purpose is all about good relationships. That's why Durex exists. In India, it's a really, really awkward thing to talk about sex. They won't do it. But until they do, they're going to continue to have more and more horrendous situations like this. Durex very bravely worked with us and with Ravinder Singh, who is about as famous as Tom Cruise is in India, a Bollywood star. And we created a dance craze called Do the Rex. It's a fun piece of content, which I'll play now. And it's just a laugh, it's a song, right? And it's a dance. And it created a huge amount of conversation in India, and it celebrated the joy of sex between, consenting adults. What a weird revolutionary idea that is. So this is just a little clip of that.
This one's for all you lovers.
I won't do the dance.
All over the world. Lovers. I love it. This feeling.
I'll be looking out for people at the party tonight doing the dance. This was a massive piece of content on YouTube, watched by millions of people. YouTube, as you know, is not a place of great debate and dialogue. It's a place of evil trolling. And of course, the predictable thing happened that trolls suggested that just what had happened to those girls should be happening to the women in Ravinder Singh's family, just for having the audacity to come out with a condom brand and do something about sex. But what also happened is that ordinary conservative Indians who were a bit uncomfortable with what he'd done saw those comments, and it kind of shocked them out of their complacency. And you started to see people responding to that issue and recognizing there's a cultural problem in India. All of a sudden, a piece of branded content that's a film and a dance and a bit of a laugh becomes a political act and something that can create change. Durex, of course, are committing to this in the long term. And sticking with this issue, which is one of the main things that you need to do, really, to get marketing with purpose to work. So to start closing up, I think there's two possibilities for marketing. One really is to get people to buy stuff they don't need with money they don't have to make themselves feel better about the fact they work all the time and aren't famous yet. And I don't want to do that one. And that probably includes invading their dreams. To add value, richness, and purpose to products and services so economic dignity grows and we all get happier. I would like that to be my job and to be the role of my agency. Unilever, as an organization, are streets ahead of agencies out there. Since 2010, they've been on a mission to really improve their business results at the same time as improving their score on social issues. We work with them here in South Africa. I'm incredibly proud of the work that Licorice do with them. I think that this is an example of how clients are leading us as an industry. I agree with one of the previous speakers who said that as an industry, we sit back and we wait for the brief, and we're kind of whatever you want us to be, baby, to the clients. We need to get on the front foot a bit more and start thinking about the kinds of work we want to do. Is your job to fill landfills with a bunch of stuff that people don't need, or is it to try and make the world a little bit better? I'd say this work from OMO is an example of the latter.
SA has the lowest maths literacy rankings in the world. With 86% mobile penetration and our OMO Fast Kids program, this is a stat we have the power to change. OMO Fast Kids is an interactive online learning platform for mobile phones, tablet devices, and desktop browsers. 7-year-olds through to 18-year-olds with access to a device are able to sharpen their skills and get exposure to the foundations of mathematics through a gamified learning experience. But how do we make maths more appealing than mobile games or Facebook browsing? Using an age-old technique, tangible and tasty rewards. As budding boffins practice Pythagoras and the likes, virtual tokens are earned and can be used to gain incentives like Paddle Pop ice creams and Hungry Lion vouchers, courtesy of Unilever. We've had up to a 30% redemption rate on these rewards. Recognition is another driving factor. A leaderboard gives the young users a sense of their ranking in the greater Fast Kids community. Access to the platform is free for the first 30 days. After that, the unique code on any OMO pack can be submitted monthly to gain access. So, let's talk numbers. In only 3 months, OMO Fast Kids has enhanced the mathematics literacy of more than 30,000 learners. Parents and children are learning together with more than 20,000 sign-ups from supportive parents. Math skills are skyrocketing with a minimum of 9 pages viewed per session, equating to 3 million page views today. And our keen community is multiplying month on month with 100 to 150 sign-ups daily. OMO Fast Kids is allowing a laundry detergent to give children more than just brighter school shirts. We're giving them a brighter future.
This is incredibly important if you think about what I was saying just now, premature deindustrialization. These kids that would normally be going into jobs in factories need to be looking after computers, telling computers what to do. You don't get to do that without maths. And without those middle-class jobs that are disappearing in developed countries, you don't get to sell your products. So it's incredibly enlightened, but it's also self-interested in the right way. So I think that's a fantastic example of where brands can step in and start to kind of affect this issue in an important way. So there's and those of you who know the Aphex Twin or who know Irish poetry from the 19th century will recognise this. Arthur O'Shaughnessy, "We are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams." It's a fantastic poem that talks about the potential for a dystopian or a positive and more utopian world. It ends with "Each age is a dream that is dying or one that is coming to birth." I think if we take control of the technology, we understand where the power structures lie, we can find that it's one that's coming to birth for us, for our clients, and for millions of people around the world. Thank you very much. We've kind of, I guess we've run out of time for questions. Are there any questions out there? I'm keeping you all from a drink. I should have planted one from licorice. Okay, cool. Well, enjoy yourselves tonight, guys. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks. That was a really great high into